لله رب العالمين والصالين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذمومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We gave a summary last night of the first series and session that we had in 2016, which was entitled From Muslim to Mu'min. We re-examined some of the fundamentals of our faith and our belief system, proving God's existence, looking at His justice, discussing the afterlife, talking about the problem of good and evil. We showed that there's a rational, reasonable, logical explanation for all of these things and the attempt to strengthen our Iman. Then last night we said, after having achieved a certain level of Iman and starting to act upon our beliefs, is that enough? And we said no. It's possible for somebody to be a mu'min, meaning that they act upon their belief system, but Iman itself is on different levels. It's graded, it's gradational. You can have somebody with weak Iman and you can have somebody with strong Iman. So our question was, is there a way that we can start to increase our Iman? How do we know how to raise our level of faith? We said a whole surah, or at least the first 11 ayat of chapter 23 of the Holy Quran is dedicated to this idea. And chapter 23 is Surah Al-Mu'minun. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to start with the very first verse, explain some of the points, and try to bore out this idea of what exactly can we do, or what does the Quran advise us to do? What do we need to practice and think about in order to become successful mu'mineen? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد أفلح المؤمنون. So let's break it apart piece by piece. So we have قد أفلح and المؤمنون. So المؤمنون is the obvious part, right? The believers or those who have Iman. قد is a particle that can come on a verb. So قد itself, there's two different ways it's interpreted. Qad usually comes from the Arabic qaf dal dal, qadda, which itself means to cut or to break apart something. When it's used as a particle in front of a verb, specifically a past tense verb, which aflaha is a past tense verb. When it comes like this, it gives this meaning of definiteness. It's a separation, meaning when you say something definitely happens. So over here, one way we can translate this is, so over here you have successful indeed are other believers, right? So we'd say this indeed here is what they're trying to define as qad, right? Absolutely or definitely the believers have become successful. The other way that it's interpreted is that it's talking about something that is so definite that it's actually separated from our reality right now, meaning that it's already happened. It's not that it's talking about something that will go on in the future. Because it's coming on a past tense verb, it said that, look, this has already taken place. So قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, that the mu'mineen, the believers have already become successful. And some say both of these ideas come together, that you take the idea of definiteness and the idea that it's already taken place. So then over here, if you combine it all together, you say that absolutely, most definitely, the mu'mineen, the believers have already become successful. It's not something that one can deny. There's no shak or shubha in this whatsoever. Now before we get to the next point of aflaha, a past tense verb talking about success or victory, there's one narration which is mentioned in one of our tafasir, narrated and attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil, which sets up the ground for what we want to understand as we discuss these ayat as we go forward. So this riwayat says here, لَقَدْ أُنزِلَتْ عَلَيَّ 10 آيَات. So, again, same qad comes here, right? Most definitely, 10 ayat have been sent down and revealed to me. So over here they say, look, these 10 ayat of Surah Al-Mu'minun. And then he gives this second part. Man aqamuhunna dakhal al-jannah. So whoever does iqama of these ayat, dakhal al-jannah, right? They will enter heaven. Now it's interesting. Normally when we have these riwayat which talk about, say, the importance or the rewards related to reciting a verse of Quran or a chapter of Quran, and usually the words use man qara'a. Right? Whoever recites this verse, then they will get this many rewards, or they'll go to heaven, or hellfire won't touch them. That's usually what happens. Over here it says man aqamuhunna. Whoever does iqama, whoever makes this a foundation, who stands up with these specific ayat. So this is already showing us that this is something different than just simple recitation. It's iqama here, not qira'ah. It's actually implementing these things, not even one time or two times. It has to become a part of our lifestyle and our daily life. So when we're looking at these ayat, as we go one by one, inshallah, in the future, every night, it's not something for us to theoretically understand. Even the practical part of it won't be good enough if we just do it once or twice. It's something that we have to inculcate, indoctrinate, and make it a part of our everyday living style. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the next part is aflaha. So aflaha is a past tense verb talking about success, right? Meaning, literally means he succeeded. So this idea of success comes about 40 times in the Quran. It's used in many different forms. Obviously, we're not going to go through all of those. But there's 14 instances that we want to talk about a bit more. 11 of these instances, when Allah talks about success or falah or falh, Allah puts another particle ahead of that word. And this particle is la'alla. Now if you remember, la'alla, we talked about this in the beginning nights. So those of you who know Arabic, la'alla means perhaps or maybe. It's literally the opposite of qad in one sense. So on one hand, you have qad, which means definitely or already it's gonna happen, or it must happen, or it has happened in the past. Whereas on the other side, la'alla is maybe it might take place, perhaps it might take place. So many times we have this ta'bir, right, this phraseology in the Quran at the end of many ayat in 11 places, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so that maybe you become successful. So one example is in Surah An-Nur, chapter 24, verse 31. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. So do tawbah towards Allah, all of you together. Who specifically? أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, the believers. So that maybe, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ, so that maybe you become successful. What's interesting here is, so we have tawbah, everybody has to do tawbah together. It's addressed to the mu'mineen, the believers, and it's maybe perhaps you'll become successful. So keep these three things in mind. So 11 times in the Quran, we're using this la'alla, perhaps, maybe you'll become successful. On the other side, we see 3 times, out of these 40, 3 times this particle qad comes in front of aflaha or falh. Specifically aflaha. So 3 times are what? Let's see. First would be Surah Al-Shams. Right, chapter 91, verse 9. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Right? So, indeed, or already the person who purifies or does tazkiyatun nafs, right? They are definitely successful. And the other part, of course, is in Surah Al-A'la, right? Chapter 87, verse 14. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. So you have zakkaha and tazakka. Both basically alluding to the same point. So what's the central theme over here? Is tazkiyah, right? Zakah, purification. So this central theme of purification, the first point that we're noting is that, look, this is connected to success. If you remember, in those other 11 times that came when it was la'alla, it was saying that maybe you'll become successful. If you do tawbah, maybe you become successful. But Allah saying in these other verses, if you do tazkiyatun nafs, then definitely you'll become successful. So already we have a distinction here. There's a chance to become successful with things like tawbah, for example. But when we do tazkiyatun nafs, according to these 2 verses, and according to this one, which is in Surah Al-Mu'minun, which we'll explain, then this is a definite way for us to attain success. So you can choose either way. Of course, you can mix and match. So success in faith then definitely requires tazkiyatun nafs and purification. Well, how exactly do we do that? Inshallah later on, because tazkiyatun nafs is referred to within the next few ayat. On that night, we'll talk about it more inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farj. Okay. Now the next point. What does success actually mean? What is the meaning of falah or falh in Arabic? So many of our ulama, when they want to dissect and analyze a word, especially a Quranic word, there's two different ways of going about it, right? You can simply just open up a dictionary and just take a look at what it says there, and then you translate it and you're done, right? It's a simple way that even many of us can do. You can download any sort of app on your phone, right? An Arabic dictionary. If you don't want to know what it means, you look it up and you get a translation success. Other ulama take a bit of a deeper approach. They say, look, within the Arabic language, there's something called ruh al-ma'ana or ruh al-ma'ani. That within all of these words, in Arabic, each word has its own spirit and soul. The way to find out how these words have meaning or gained a certain meaning is you have to take a look at the oldest classical meaning of the word. Meaning this, the way that words are used right now in Arabic, even the way that it was used by Arabs after the Quran and after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, was different than the way it was used in, let's say, pre-Islamic Arabic. So there was essential classical meaning, and then over time it changed. But anytime the meaning of these words change, it still retains that ruh, that spirit and soul of the original meaning. So these ulama say, look, if you take a look at that original classical meaning, that ruh al-ma'ana, ruh al-ma'ani, if you grab the spirit, then you'll have a better understanding perhaps of what Allah is trying to explain to us. So, a literal translation of falh and falah is success. But in the classical pre-Islamic Arabic, where does this actually come from? So originally, this word has to do with cutting and splitting. Aflaha or falaha was somebody who cut or split something. And very specifically, it had to do with those who were in farming. So sometimes, even in both classical and modern Arabic, a falah is a farmer. That's a word you would use for a farmer. So when they would do falah or falah, it would be talking about how they engage in their work. Now, what do we mean? So when somebody wants to plant something, what do? Right? It's not as simple as, you just move away some dirt and some soil, you take a seed, you put it in the ground, you cover it, water it, let sunlight hit it, and that's it. So anybody who's into gardening, right, if you're a farmer, you know that there's much more involved. It's much more involved than that. It's not as simple as making a hole in the dirt and putting a seed in. In the beginning, many gardeners or botanists talk about the idea of cultivation or tilling, right? Is that the ground needs to be beat up a little bit. You have to make space. You have to make sure that there's pockets of air so that airflow can happen, water can come in, the nutrients can be soaked up properly. Otherwise, they say, look, if you allow the soil to be used the way it is, for the most part, it's going to be dry. You won't be allowed to have moisture being sucked in, and you won't be able to cultivate this land. Right? So they say in the beginning, you should cultivate it or till this land. Right? Break it apart, soften the soil, so that it becomes prime ground for something to grow there. So from this idea of a farmer breaking up that soil in the beginning in order to get to what they want to, cutting and breaking up that soil, later turned on to falh, meaning what? Meaning cutting. Then later on it becomes success. We say, okay, well how do we go from a farmer breaking up and cultivating and tilling soil and land to cutting and splitting to success? How do we make the jump between these three meanings? We'll discuss that inshallah. If you can send a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farjahum. You see, when a farmer wants to plant anything, they don't just grab random things, even after tilling, and toss them in the ground and let it be. There's a system that's behind what they're doing. Now, the first thing that a farmer needs to do, or anybody who wants to plant or grow anything, is they need to have what? They need to have a vision and a goal in mind. I want to grow apples. I want to grow oranges. I want to grow pomegranates. I want to grow corn. I want to grow mint leaves, whatever it is. You have to figure out what your goal is. Once you figure out what your goal is, then you develop a vision. You develop a proper plan. Now what's the next step? Okay, I want to grow pomegranates. Okay, now that I know I want to grow pomegranates, I need to make sure in order to get to a pomegranate tree, I have to follow a very specific methodology. It may be the case, again, I'm not a farmer or a gardener, but it may be the case, and I'm assuming it is the case, that for every type of crop that's grown, different type of preparation and method has to be undertaken. It's not the case that for every single fruit and every single vegetable and every single plant or bush or shrub that you can just cut the soil, put something in and water it, right? Everything has its own specific methodology. So a farmer should do their research ahead of time. Once they have their vision and goal, their desired crop, then they figure out what's the method to get to that goal. Now once they figure out their method, then they start their work, right? They start to do what they have to do. Now once they begin the work, it's not simply planting the seed and walking away. There's constant watering, there's making sure that animals don't come in and eat those crops, there's making sure that the sunlight hits it constantly, there's nothing blocking there. So after getting your vision and your goal, after figuring out what method you have to implement, after doing the initial work, then you have to maintain. Maintenance is required. After all of these steps are done, after the work and the maintenance, then after some time, that's when you get the harvest. That's when you're actually able to reap what you've sown. And they say, what? This is success. So success is divided into this kind of 5-step process, right? You have your vision and your goal, your method that you have to figure out ahead of time. You do your work that's appropriate. You maintain that work constantly, and you check up. And then finally, you're allowed to, after time, harvest and reap your rewards. So this 5-step process is after a farmer has his goal and vision, he develops it over time and acts accordingly, then he can finally reap and gain success. So that's how they say why you're able to, this message and meaning of falah became success. Because farmers have a complete plan in their minds about how to attain success. And that's why they say, some of our ulama say, that's how the meaning came from farming, or to a farmer specifically, to cutting and breaking up soil, and finally to the meaning of success. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, next point. So now, what does it mean for us? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Absolutely, without a doubt, already the believers, the mu'mineen, have achieved success. Okay? So now we want to take this idea of success and this 5-point plan and implement it, especially when we go through all these different points in the ayat that we'll mention every night. So what is our vision and goal? Is it to get to heaven? Okay, that's maybe one way of describing it. Or maybe if we take it down a notch, it's just simply gaining as many rewards as possible. We're doing our wajibat, keeping away from what's haram. Right? These are different ways you can describe your goal. Maybe a more precise or maybe a higher version or a higher goal might be, look, I'm not just trying to get after heaven and go after heaven. I'm trying to attain and achieve a true Muslim identity, which we already established, right, in our series before. And we talked about what that really entails. Meaning getting close to Allah, allowing oneself to be engulfed and absorbed by Allah's presence and His light. That's what we're truly after. If that means I get to heaven, fine. But if that means something else, it doesn't matter to me. Wherever Allah is, wherever the awliya and the ma'asumeen are, that's where I want to be. It doesn't matter where that is. Wherever they are, that's where I want to go. So that vision, although a small distinction, it makes a big difference. Imagine we have people who say that they want to be with the Imam, but the actions, again, are not in accordance and are not in conformity with the vision and goal that they have in mind, right? So sometimes we say heaven and our actions are limited to just do these few things and don't do these few things, and that's it. But if our vision and goal changes to I'm getting close to Allah, then maybe we put a bit more presence of heart in what we're doing. Maybe we are a bit more aware of our actions. Maybe we do a bit more research in the method that we're going to employ on how we get closer to Allah. So over there we have to look at this, another idea. That there's different types of success as well. Even in terms of getting to heaven or even in terms of getting close to Allah. So Raghib Isfahani, in his famous Mufradat, he says that, look, there's two types of success we can discuss. One is what we say is worldly success, And one, dunyawi success, materialistic success, and the other is ukhrawi, or metaphysical success, or the success in the afterlife. So what's the difference? He says basically there's 4 qualities for worldly, and there's 4 qualities for the afterlife. What are these 4 qualities? So those who are looking for worldly success, first quality is baqa. They want whatever they're going after to remain with them, right? They don't want to lose it. The second quality is ghina. They want to be independent, right? I want this thing, and I want to be independent so I don't have to rely on anybody else. The third is izzah. I want power and glory and honor in regards to this thing that I'm after. And fourth is ilm. I want knowledge about this idea. So let's give an example, right? Let's talk about, for example, money. So baqa. Now, for example, let's say you're fundraising, right, for a center, just as an example. So baqa. Now, would it be nice for everybody to give a one-time donation? Yeah, that's good. But what does any center want? They want baqa. They want it to continue as much as possible, right? One time is nice, but to continue is much better. Ghina. At some point, even every center, they want to be independent. I'm sure most centers don't like to have to fundraise and go after money. They'd like to be at a stage where we're independent, we have an income coming in from other sources, we don't have to ask people anymore, right? The third, izzah. We want to have this power and honor and dignity so that, again, we don't have to go up to people and beg for money, right? That loses your status, right? It makes you lose your honor. And the fourth is ilm. We'd also like to gain knowledge and information on how we can obtain that fundraising or knowledge, or money ourselves, if possible. So these 4 things you can apply to anything that you're going after. If you have these 4, then according to Raghib, this is your worldly success. Well, what about success in the afterlife? What's the difference here? Because you might say, look, I'm looking for the same stuff in the dunya as well. But there's a few characteristics which will distinguish the dunya and the akhirah, which we'll discuss tomorrow night, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we will continue tomorrow night examining this first verse. If we're able to finish it, then we'll move on to the second verse. But we want to end with a few words of musibah and gham bayan tonight for our Mawla. You know, when you have something in your mind, we obviously all want to achieve that goal. Right? We have a vision in our mind and we all want to go after that. But there's 2 different ways and there's 2 different connections that we might have to this thing. If it's something that maybe we kind of like or that we're attached to, we might be stopped, we might be prohibited, we might be blocked from it. Right? So for example, maybe let's say you like to come to the center. You like to come to majalis, you like to come to lectures. But maybe if the weather's bad or you're having some personal issue or some family issue comes up, that prevents you from what you like. So you're not able to achieve it. But when there's something that you absolutely and truly love, when you have ishq, true ishq towards it, there's nothing in the world that can stop you from it, if you truly love it. For our Mawla Ali, one of his objects of affection was, of course, his Rabb, his Lord. Of course, this is his greatest object of love. And when you have that, when Allah is your object of love, nothing can stop you from Allah. Nothing can stop you from getting to Allah. And specifically, when someone is in love and drowns in the love of Allah, the thing that they love the most is talking with Allah. They want to be in constant dialogue with their Rabb, with their Creator. So they said, look, not even maut, not even death could keep Ali away from salah. Not even the fear of death could keep Ali away from the masjid. Even when he had the feeling that something was going to happen. Even when he knew, according to our narrations, that this was his final time, that this was the end for him. When you love something, nothing can keep you away from that. Tonight, on this day and night of the 19th, in the household of the Ahlul Bayt, there was extreme heartbreak. And in the household of the lovers of Ali and the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, there's heartache. Anybody who hears this story, even if they're not a Shia, their heart breaks. You know, the story of Ali, of his life, and the way he lost his life tragically, is not something that a person can turn a blind eye towards. We know the story of his iftar, the simple iftar that he had on the night before. We know how he was being seen, according to our scholars in the books of history, how he was restless on this night. I mean, normally every night he would be up reciting his Salatul Layl, doing his Adhkar, and all of these different things. But his family narrates that it seems like something's different about Ali tonight. Specifically, Kulthum, his beloved daughter, is seeing something different with her father. So before leaving for Fajr, Kulthum sees that her father is back and forth saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Kulthum is confused. Abata, why are you saying something like this at a time like this? What is going on that you're saying these type of words right now? And we know that in the household of the Ahlul Bayt, like father, like son. This same exact conversation, according to some riwayat, happened between Imam Hussein and Ali al-Akbar. The same exact conversation. When they were getting ready to set off for their last ride as father and son. When Imam Hussein was restless saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and Ali al-Akbar asked his father, Abata, why are you saying something like this right now? And it's almost the same way father and son repeat this tradition, repeat this same idea, that they repeat their vision and their words to their children. In the same way Imam Hussein shared his vision and dream with his son, Imam Ali shares his vision and dream with Kulthum. He says, Oh my beloved daughter, Rasulullah is coming to me and saying, Ya Ali, ana mushtaqun ilayk. Ya Ali, I miss you. Come back to me. After tonight, soon you'll be coming back to me. And when Imam Ali had this vision, he said, this is the night. Tonight is the night that was promised to me where I will achieve my success. As he's getting ready to leave the house, Kulthum hears the animals outside making strange sounds. And she's asking, Abata, what are these strange sounds that the animals are making? And she says, Oh my daughter, you don't understand, you don't have the vision, you don't know what they're saying really. But I know that these animals are reciting Noha for me. They're crying for me and they're welcoming me towards Jannah. On the morning of the 19th, Imam is making his way towards the masjid, waking up everybody, even the killer. Even his killer, he's waking up for Fajr. This night was different. Normally they have a mu'adhin, but on that night, on that morning, Imam Ali gave the adhan himself. He begins his prayer, Allahu Akbar. He starts to go down into ruku', and then finally to his sujood, when the Mal'oon ibn Muljam comes and strikes him from behind. And this is when we hear the famous words narrated from Jibreel. Jibreel, they say, the one who would only have his voice heard by the Prophet. The one who recited a qasida for the sword of Ali, Ya Fata illa Ali, Ya Sayfa illa Dhul Fiqar. Now, on this morning, on this day, Jibreel is reciting something else. He's saying, Tahaddamat wallah arkanul huda. The pillars of guidance have been destroyed. Wantasamat wallahu nujumus sama. The stars in the skies have been obliterated. Wa'alamat taqa. And the signs and the flags of piety have been wiped out. وَانْفَصَحَتٍ وَاللَّهُ عُرْوَةَ الْوَفْقَى. The Urwat al-Wafqa has been split and ripped apart. قُتِلَ ابْنُ الْمُصْطَفَى قُتِلَ الْوَصِيُّ الْمُجْتَبَى قُتِلَ عَلِيًّا الْمُرْتَضَى. The cousin of Mustafa has been killed. The wasi of Mujtaba has been killed. Ali and al-Murtada has been killed. Qatala wallah qutila wallahu sayyid al-awsiya. Qatalahu ashqa al-ashqiya. The master of the awsiya has been killed. And the worst of individuals has killed him. Ala la'natullah ala qawmi al-zalimin wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayyu munqalabin yanqalibun. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, ridan biqada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.